She wore black like it was a costume. Too perfect, too rehearsed. Her eyeliner smudged just enough to say tragedy. Her trembling hands just dramatic enough to say, pity me. When my father's casket was lowered into the ground, she clutched my arm and whispered, "We have to stay strong, Claire." I wanted to shake her off, to tell her not to use "we" when she'd spent the last 2 years replacing us. Her name was Vivian Kessler, and she was my father's second wife, a woman who treated grief like a performance and inheritance like a prize. My father, Richard Donnelly, had been many things. A man of discipline, a man of vision, a man who believed in fairness. He was also, unfortunately, a man who fell in love too easily. When he met Vivian, I was 27, running my own interior design studio in the city. I remember the first dinner vividly, how she laughed too loudly at his jokes, how her manicured hand lingered on his wrist just a second too long. She was 42, but wore youth like armor. Expensive hair, expensive perfume, expensive veneers that flashed like warning signs I was too polite to read aloud. I told myself she made him happy, that maybe, after years of widowerhood, he deserved companionship. I told myself that, until I saw the wedding photos 6 months later. He looked in love. She looked victorious. The day after his funeral, I found her sitting in his study, surrounded by unopened condolence cards and a glass of Pinot Grigio balanced on my father's leather ledger. "Claire," she said, smiling weakly, "I've been meaning to talk to you about the estate." "Already?" I asked. Her expression faltered. "It's not what you think. I just need clarity. Your father would have wanted me to be comfortable." "Comfortable?" The word hit like acid. My father hadn't been gone 48 hours, and she was already framing the inheritance as a moral duty. I forced calm. "He made sure everyone would be. The will is clear." She nodded, but her eyes darted to the safe behind the desk, the one only he and I knew the code to. That's when I knew she didn't just want comfort, she wanted control. For the next few days, she played the grieving widow well. Black dresses, tearful phone calls to distant relatives, but beneath it all, her impatience leaked through. Little slips, like calling the lawyer sweetheart or referring to the house as my home. It was my childhood home, my mother's home. So when the for sale sign appeared on the lawn a week later, my blood went cold. I confronted her on the porch. "What the hell is this?" She didn't flinch. "Claire, I can't stay here. Too many memories. I've already spoken to a realtor. She says we could get 7 figures easily." "We?" She blinked, feigning innocence. "Of course. Your father and I were married. Half of this is mine." "No," I said slowly. "Half of this was his, and his will doesn't give you ownership of the property." Her lips tightened. "That's not how it works, sweetheart." The sweetheart landed like a slap. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I went through my father's old filing cabinets, the ones he kept in my old bedroom, beneath layers of dust and forgotten tax forms. He'd been meticulous, a man who labeled everything, who believed paper trails were the truest mirrors of a person's life. And then I found it. A beige envelope marked Prenuptial Agreement, R. Donnelly and V. Kessler. I opened it carefully, heart pounding. The terms were staggering. Vivian had no claim to the house, no rights to his business assets, and would receive a fixed settlement if they divorced or if he passed before her. A settlement that had already been transferred to a separate account. My father had protected everything, even from her. I felt tears sting my eyes, not from sadness this time, but from vindication. He'd known. Somewhere deep down, he'd known. The next morning, Vivian was in the living room, chatting with a young realtor, all smiles and lipstick. I stood in the doorway, prenup in hand. "Morning," I said. "What's going on here?" Vivian turned, sugar in her tone. "Claire, I didn't think you'd be back so soon. We were just listing the house," I interrupted. The realtor shifted uncomfortably. Yes, Miss Kessler wanted to discuss potential buyers. Funny, I said, considering she doesn't own the house. The air changed. Vivian's smile froze, brittle as glass. Excuse me? I unfolded the prenup, letting the pages flutter like a slow reveal in a courtroom drama. This document says otherwise. My father made sure you'd be taken care of. But this house? This isn't yours to sell. The realtor blinked. Wait, so she doesn't have legal claim? No, I said evenly. She doesn't. Vivian's face drained of color. You don't understand. Your father promised. My father wrote it down, I cut in, and that's what matters. The realtor cleared his throat awkwardly. I'm sorry, Mrs. Kessler, but without ownership rights, we can't proceed. He gathered his papers and slipped out, leaving Vivian standing there, trembling, furious, and suddenly very small. For the first time, I saw her without the performance. No makeup, no charm, just a woman who'd bet her future on a lie and lost. You think you've won, she hissed. I didn't need to win, I said quietly. I just needed the truth to speak louder than your tears. Her lip quivered, but she said nothing. As I turned to leave, she muttered, He loved me, you know. I paused at the doorway. Maybe he did, but not enough to trust you with everything. Weeks passed. Vivian moved out. First her clothes, then her jewelry, then the silence. The house felt like itself again, quieter, honest. When the lawyer finalized the paperwork, I sat in my father's study and opened the window. The air smelled like rain and roses, the same way it had when I was a child. On his desk, I found one last note in his handwriting. Claire, if you're reading this, it means you're taking care of what I built. I trust you to do it with the same integrity you've always had. Love, Dad. I pressed the paper to my chest and finally let the tears come. Months later, I saw Vivian again, at a cafe downtown. She looked different, thinner, less polished. She saw me too, and for a moment our eyes met. No words, just a flicker of something, shame maybe, or regret. She left her coffee half finished and walked out. I didn't follow. Because revenge, I'd learned, isn't always about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about letting them live with what they tried to take from you. Now, when I walk through the garden my father planted, the one Vivian once called wasted land, I feel peace. The roses bloom in crooked rows, imperfect but alive. And I think about how easy it is for people like her to mistake wealth for legacy. But my father's legacy wasn't in money or property. It was in the way he raised me to protect what mattered, not with anger, but with truth. So when I pass the old front gate and see the faded marks where the for sale sign once stood, I smile. Because this house isn't just a home anymore. It's proof that the people who cry the loudest often have the least to lose. And the people who stay silent, the ones who wait, who watch, who know, are the ones who win in the end.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.